Before we get started, I just want to make it clear that that thumbnail is from the most G-rated, family-friendly show ever aired on television. It's all in good fun, no disrespect. But day number 4, full CWL Week 11 recaps coming up. How good did that LG team look versus Splyce? And what exactly does UYU need to do to get themselves a win? That and more in this recap. Like I mentioned, it's all in good fun. I gotta put it out there. It was just really good. It was funny at the time. I had to make it happen. So if I offended anybody with my thumbnail, I apologize. It's all in good fun. Smile, shake it off. Let's get better together, huh? Let's do it. CWL Week 11 has come to a close, and this is the last time that 8 of our teams will play in a regular season match in Columbus. The only other things coming up are Miami in a couple weeks, and then we have World Champs after that. So, as you do, you gotta break it down. Give you guys the results and see exactly how the standings have panned out. So let's go ahead and take a look at our matches for today. It started off with FaZe Clan going up against Units. Evil Geniuses got their go versus Enigma 6, who's been strong but not able to close out rounds. That sounds familiar, right? 100 Thieves would go up against UYU. And then the one that everyone was waiting for, Splyce versus LG, essentially the battle of the new rosters. Who would win it out? We would find out pretty quickly. We'll get to it as we go through the day. Starting off with FaZe versus Units. And again, a lot of expectations for me was that Units have looked atrocious in Search and Destroy, but have been playing Hardpoint and really their entire respawn relatively well. So could they find a way, potentially, to get a go and get some respawns off of FaZe, who honestly have been a little bit surprisingly lackluster compared to how we saw them initially pop off on the hardpoint specifically. The first map would be Frequency, and Units would just not go away versus this FaZe Clan team. Again, this is a good hardpoint squad, as they would give FaZe a workout, even though FaZe had a handful of streaks through the early and mid portions of the first map. But FaZe being down 70 late started to pull it back and would eventually make this a 10-point game, 224 to 236 going into P4. But Units would keep the pressure on, keep contesting, and eventually close things out, 250 to 231. Units with a little bit of a surprise off the rip, but again, not that much of a surprise. This team has been good in the hardpoint, like I mentioned. They've been looking solid. They only lost one, and that was to Luminosity previously to the start of this set. Then we go to the Search and Destroy. Big concerns for Units. They've not won a single search yet, and none of them have been close. The closest they've come to was a 4-6 loss to UYU. This one would not go very well for them on payload, as FaZe would run all over the map and just looked like Units was not ready for Search and Destroy across all the maps yet. They can slay, we saw that, and they were actually doing relatively well, but the fact of the matter was they were taking too many individual fights. They would get traded away. They need to work it out as a team. 6-3 the score for FaZe. Going to Control, Seaside. FaZe has been good on this map, generally speaking, and on their first offense, FaZe would be up 7 lives, but Rated is able to help things out during the defense of A, where he would be able to even things up and find streaks for Units. That would be the only near successful offensive attack for either squad for the rest of the game. Units starting on defense would get all 3 Ds in round number 5. That sounded a little promiscuous, as they would also find the W 3-2. But FaZe so close to potentially eking out that Seaside Control. And again, concerns. So as we go to the next hard point, what a game. It was going to be played again on Seaside for the hard point. Insane game. Honestly, if you're looking for one game throughout the entire day to go back and watch this one, because it was very, very fun to watch. If you're looking for a pretty solid hard point in close fashion, both teams provided. Cell in the end would have a massive clutch up with the Tempest. It would secure barrels coming off the Fountain hardpoint for the very narrow win. Holy smokes, what a game. 250 to 247. Late contest on the Fountain for FaZe. Going into the barrels allowed them to stay in the game. Units were on a comeback for most of this map, but Units were able to find a couple of hills strung together and really made a nice little comeback, but not quite enough to be able to find what would have been 2 straight hard points versus what was a good FaZe team, at least as far as how we built it. So we'd finished things off on Search and Destroy Hacienda. And again, Units have been atrocious in Search and Destroy, but somehow things were just clicking. I will say, though, for FaZe, where were they? They were not giving the same kind of teamwork we were used to seeing. There were a handful of just silly individual plays that got immediately punished by Units, and Units would find an absolutely clean 6-1. And again, there were concerns naturally for FaZe and their search and destroy previously, but this was the worst that they've looked in search in some time, and I'm a little shook here. I had this one going 3-1 with units maybe taking a respawn, but not a search, let alone finding 2 respawns against this squad. That's, again, surprising. So units would take the set 3-2. Going over to our second set of the day, Evil Geniuses and Enigma 6. We had this pegged to go round number 5, or map 5, I guess I should say, because this Enigma 6 team is good. Again, their losses have been very narrow. Even the 0-3 versus FaZe, it was a 234-250, a 5-6, and an 0-3 in the control. They've been looking a little bit lackluster in the control with this new roster, but they've been playing the surge and the hardpoints a lot closer than they had previously against certain teams. So for this one, we'd start off with hardpoint on Arsenal. And good gravy, Miss Daisy. Enigma 6 came out slapping EG with 3 players getting streaks very early in the set. That would be enough for Enigma 6 to absolutely stomp through this one, 250-103. Absolutely insane. So then we would go to the search and destroy Hacienda. And again, coming out of the gate, Evil Geniuses just looked a little bit lost today. Honestly, just a lot of solo plays. Again, not able to respond to aggressive pressure from Kismet. And Enigma 6 was just cleaning up kills individually all around the map. They would find themselves at too much of an insurmountable lead as they would take the search 6-3. So E6 up 2-0. Evil Geniuses, they'd get a chance to play control on one of their better maps in Arsenal. And Evil Geniuses, this is when they'd start to wake up. They went up 2-0. Would throw away, though, Attached would throw away a War Machine on what essentially was a lost offensive round number 3. And then in round number 4, 2 more specialists come out early in the round when they were trying to defend A, and it really doesn't find much value. Enigma that's coming out with the lives would find that round going into round number 4. They would also have the lives going into a final push, but JCap coming out of the vents would find 2 clutch kills and secure it for Evil Geniuses, a 3-1 in the control. So we go to hardpoint, map number 4. And EG, then this is where they started off, and this is what we expected to see from them in hardpoint. 200-47 at one point with streaks all over the place. Attach popped off, going huge double positives, right around 38-12 or something of the nature. This one was quick and fast. Evil Geniuses take frequency 250-66. So we go to a search and destroy. Enigma 6, I don't know where you've been, but they were, again, hanging around with Evil Geniuses throughout this the search and destroy on Gridlock, where they would be able to send things to around 11, down 4-5, and then clean up the last round, and they would surprisingly take the set 3-2 with the 6-5 search win. And again, some issues for Evil Geniuses, but you have to trust the whole process with Revan because this team has been getting better and better. But for Enigma 6, you got to feel good about this one because they are also steadily improving. Enigma 6 end the week at a 2-2 in the win-loss column. Not bad whatsoever. Going over to 100 Thieves at UYU. 3-0. 250-62, 6-3. A little bit of a scare on the control. 3-2 is the final. 3-0. UYU just needs to find a way to get better, flat out. I mean, Classic had some decent moments, but again, it's individual moments where you look at UYU and say, hey, like, there's some moments here for UYU. It's never on a full team standpoint. Methods had a couple of really bad moments today, a couple of team kills, a 3-team kill nade that came out at one point in time during Arsenal. It's just not good, man. I'll play the other side of the card here and sympathize a little bit because I don't know. I just don't get this roster, man. I really don't. I liked this UYU team at the beginning of the year. I was a huge supporter of this UYU team when it was Methods Mayhem and when they initially picked up Parzelian and Proto was still on this roster, but I just don't get it flat out. Royalty and Zap going away, like, okay, but like you lose Parz. You bring in Phantoms, who hasn't really done much. Saints hasn't really done much. Blast has had a couple of moments. I mean, everyone's had a couple of moments, but there has not been a single team unity moment for this squad, and I just don't know. This is just confusing to me. Again, I hate to say it, but like I said when Rostermania occurred, I didn't see this team winning a single set, and based on how they look versus 100 Thieves today, I don't know how there's any way that you could argue the other way around, unless they get lucky somewhere in a matchup, but it's not good for UYU, hoping they can turn things around because you don't want to see this. You really don't. You want to see everyone who's working to get into the Pro League find some success, but so far UYU has found absolutely none of that. They finish off 0-6 in the hardpoint, 0-4 in the control. Their average in hardpoint Hold on to your seats real quick because it's ugly. 153.33 points on average to 250. They almost, that means on average, they lose by 90 plus points. It's tough scenes. We'd finish off the day with Splyce going up against Luminosity. And this one, a lot of people had pegged for being the potential match of the week as you saw the schedule come out. Because again, it was full week of adjustments and getting used to rosters. And then 2 new rosters with high potential going up against each other. And I was glued at first. But LG would come out on hardpoint frequency and absolutely crush Splyce out of the running completely. Honestly, it was a 70-2 start, 156-20 after the first rotation. Eventually, the gas would be let up where LG was essentially playing smart and just playing for safe rotations, making sure that hills would not be strung against them. They would win the first hardpoint 250-97. Search and destroy Hacienda. Brack is unreal. He was 11-1 at one point, found this 4K where he would earn streaks almost fully twice. Brack was a monster. Luminosity stomping Splyce 6-3. And then the control gridlock. No chance for Splyce. 3-0 for Luminosity in the set. 3-0 on the control. General reactions are the same here when it comes to Splyce. It's not just Huke that is needed to change. They need to find a way to get better at every single mode and other maps than just a couple. Like they were saying on the broadcast today, you can't just add in Huke and say, okay, all of a sudden we're good enough to now be a major contender. They had issues on every single mode before they subbed out accuracy for Huke. That problem does not go away just by adding in one really good player, because Huke is very, very good, but you have to work on these things as a team. Big looks, I think, at Marky B to see if he can get this team turned around, because they do have a couple of weeks to start working on things, but you have to have your head down to the grindstone and humble up if you're Splyce, because there are a lot of issues here. For Luminosity, though, you're looking damn good. And at the beginning of the set, people were saying, well, don't let Brack's numbers get ahead of you because he is baiting a lot of his teammates and John and Slacked in front of him, which is what the setup seems to be going for. But when John and Slacked are also now playing better in the mix, this Luminosity team's a top 4 team without a doubt in my mind. Give them a couple weeks of practice. I think we might be looking at a top 3 contender coming through. I can see them surprising a handful of teams that have been sitting at the top for the last couple of weeks, and sometimes you might even say a couple of months. So that's the breakdown as far as what happened this week. Let's take a look at the betting scorecard very quickly as far as if you were going off my bet predictions. If you bet the Luminosity upset pick, congratulations. You probably made some good cash there. I told you it was going to come that way. But if you bet the FaZe and 100 Thieves parlay, which I did with a lot of cash behind it, you lost that one. Hard to predict that one, honestly. Again, units have looked terrible. Search and destroy. I saw a world where it could go potentially to 5, but I didn't expect units to win a search all day, let alone a 6-1 against the likes of FaZe. So apologies there. Hopefully your bet on Luminosity made up for it if you bet both of those. Going over and finishing off on the standings, though, again, this is what we're looking at between Division A and Division B. There are still 8 teams that have to play, so Optic will still retain the number 1 spot. Gen G will move back up to the number 2 spot after FaZe's loss today, as Gen G has a higher chance of finishing in the 2nd spot just based off the win-loss ratio. And then you also have Evil Geniuses, Luminosity, and UYU still bringing up the rear. Evil Geniuses, no chance for them to hit the top 4 anymore. They would have had to win today, and then they would have to hope that Reciprocity Midnight got pooped on, but that probably wasn't going to happen anyways. So they will sit in the 6th spot. And then in Division B, 100 Thieves still in the number 2 spot for now. It just comes down to whatever E United does in this next week. They would have to go 2. I think they would have to. If they go 2-2, they still keep the number 1 spot, is how that would work. Splyce have put themselves in a good spot for number 4 in the division. Elevate would have to win all 4 of their games to supplant them, and even still, I'm not sure who the tiebreaker would go to. I think Splyce has locked in a number 4 spot, actually, as I believe they do hold the head-to-head versus Elevate, and then Units and Enigma 6 on the very bottom. So Cross Div coming up next week will be featuring the other 8 teams, so get ready for that one. Should be a pretty high throttle week, as really all the teams that are participating are in the top 5 with the exception of Envy. top 5 or top 6 of the placements. We're not dealing with a 7th place or 8th place squad, so it should be a very interesting week. I will also be giving you guys some power rankings to finish off this week, coming probably on Saturday. Maybe I'll get it by Friday, and then we'll do another setup for the week after that. So if you enjoyed that content, we're so close to 10K subs. I keep saying it. We keep getting closer every single day, so if you're looking to subscribe and get more content like this, make sure you do so and ring that notification bell on the way out. Until next time, though, hope you guys all keep holding it down. Later. Bye-bye.